Welcome back to GeekWares ASMR for another night of Spooktober. It is almost halfway over. Can you believe it? I cannot. Time is going so fast. If you've been following along, I am still trying to get over whatever this is. I thought I had, and then I woke up this morning and I am right back to a scratchy throat and a cough. So my apologies if you do not appreciate the extra raspy whisper that I may or may not have going on right now. Also, my stomach is being a little disrespectful, so just pretend like you don't hear it, okay? Okay. Anyway, night number 7 is all about haunted places. In fact, we are going to talk about 22 haunted places around the world in no particular order. I am hoping that I can have Sean insert the pictures along with the descriptions, but I don't know if I gave him enough time to do that. We shall see when it uploads. Anyway, I'm going to get started with the Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. It was built in 1829 and it is known for being the very first prison of its kind to introduce solitary confinement, or what they used to call the Pennsylvanian system. Prisoners were sent to solitary during this time as a form of rehabilitation. They would be completely isolated. They would live alone. They would eat alone. And they would even exercise alone in the yard. Whenever an inmate left his cell, a pitch black hood would be placed over his head to assure that he remained in confinement. I cannot imagine. I was one of those people during lockdown that I was like, whoa, I don't have to deal with people, but really I love people. Anyway, due to the Eastern States' harsh approach, many prisoners were driven to insanity, and as a result, the Pennsylvanian system was scrapped in 1913. From 1913 until around 1970, it was used as a regular prison, and it held the likes of Al Capone and the bank robber Willie Sutton. Reports of the paranormal have been going on there since the 1940s, but ever since the stone prison was abandoned in 1971, paranormal experiences have seemingly increased. Reports of these include shadowy figures that seem to quickly turn away when they are approached, a dark figure that is occasionally seen in the guard tower, an evil cackling is heard coming from cell block 12. Shadowy figures have been seen sliding down the walls in cell block 6. Ghostly faces have been witnessed in cell block 4, and strange sounds such as disembodied footsteps, distant talking, and banging of the cell doors have all also been heard. Things sliding down the walls is a giant no for me. Number 2, Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky. Waverly Hills was originally a 2-story wooden building that was opened in 1910. However, the building you see today was constructed in 19 and more people are allowed to investigate the premises. This has thrown up some incredible evidence of the paranormal over the years. Waverly Hills has been featured on TV shows such as Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and Most Haunted. TAPS, which is Ghost Hunters, captured a figure on their thermal imaging camera that seemed to be walking across the hall. The figure was about 3 foot tall, and they later found out that the ghost of a young boy named Tim had been spotted there before. There are vast amounts of varying reports, including full-bodied apparitions, fleeting shadows, screams from empty rooms, footsteps, sudden cold spots, disembodied voices, among others. I'm telling you what, if I was in the hallway and a scream came from an empty room, I'm out. I don't care what I'm doing. I am out of there. What about you? Number 3, the Cristo Homestead, New South Wales, Australia. The historic Monte Cristo Homestead in Junee, New South Wales, is regarded as the most haunted location in Australia. Its reputation stems from several tragic events that have occurred there since it was built in 1885. From its construction up to 1948, the Crawley family owned and resided in this property. During this time, the family witnessed many deaths, including the tragic death of a young child who was dropped down the stairs. Oh my goodness. A maid to the family is believed to have fallen from a balcony, and a stable boy burned to death on the property. A mentally ill man named Harold, the son of a caretaker, was chained up in the caretaker's cottage for 40 years. He was found curled up next to the body of his deceased mother, and then he was sent to a mental institution where he died shortly after. That made me so sad. The tragedy doesn't end with the Crawleys, though. After the house was left in 1948, it was taken over by a group of caretakers, and one of them was murdered in the caretaker's cottage. The Castle of Good Hope, Cape Town, South Africa, is number 4. The Castle of Good Hope was built in the 17th century by the Dutch East India Company. It is the country's oldest colonial building, originally serving as a replenishment station for ships that were passing through the treacherous waters of the Cape. The first reported paranormal occurrence was when the apparition of a tall gentleman was seen in 1915 on one of the castle's ramparts. The man wasn't seen again until 1947, when he was seen regularly over a 2-week period. He would be seen jumping off the side of one of the castle walls and walking between the bastions, Leerdam and in this building. The inn was built on the intersection of two ley lines, which many people believe are conductors for spiritual activity. In addition, an ancient pagan burial ground is said to have resided in the property over 5,000 years ago. Now, during its time as a bed and breakfast, people would often flee in the middle of the night, often seeing full-bodied apparitions in their rooms. The feeling of being touched or pulled on, disembodied voices, and just a general sense of evil. John, the previous owner of the Rams Inn, is now deceased, but he reported that on his first night in the house in 1968, he felt a presence grab his arm before he was dragged out of bed and across the room. No, I'm out. John has since found evidence of devil worship and ritual sacrifices. He found 2 child skeletons underneath the staircase, as well as broken daggers. Owners and visitors continue to experience hauntings and attacks to this day. Number 7, Fort George Citadel, Nova Scotia, Canada. Labeled as Canada's most haunted historic site, the Halifax Citadel has received hundreds of reports of ghost sightings over the years. Situated at the summit of Citadel Hill in Halifax, this star-shaped fort is almost 300 years old, with the original foundations being built in 1749 and reconstructed in 1856. The staff and visitors have reported several apparitions walking the grounds here. One particular visitor witnessed a soldier in uniform walk into one of the rooms in the old prison area and vanish. This is a common theme, with many reports centered around this type of apparition. Other ghostly figures that have been witnessed include an older man, a woman, a man who wears a red cloak, and an older lady who has been known to show herself in the mirrors. A little girl is said to follow groups taking part in the ghost tours, with the group members often experiencing her holding their hands. Other reports include disembodied voices, unexplained bangs and knocks, mists captured on film and with the naked eye. The feeling of being watched is a common complaint, as is the sudden feeling of nausea, sudden gusts of wind in a closed-off room, furniture moving, doors banging, and on occasion, people have been pushed by an unseen force. I'm sorry, my stomach is so rumbly. I'm embarrassed that my stomach is so rumbly, let me just say. Number 8, Banff Springs Hotel, Alberta, Canada. Banff Springs was built over 125 years ago by the Canadian Pacific Railway as a luxury stop-off point for train travelers. But don't let its picturesque surroundings fool you. It is rumored to be one of the most haunted in the country. Terrifying reports include sighting a bride who fell down the staircase, breaking her neck after panicking when her dress caught on fire. Her apparition has been seen on the stairs and in the ballroom dancing, with many people reporting the flames on the back of her dress. The main story that locals tell is that of a family that was murdered in room 873. The door to this room has since been bricked up, resulted in one of the more famous ghosts of the chateau, that of the La Dame Verte, or the Green Lady. The current residents, the current Duke of Brissac and his family, have become accustomed to her roaming the rooms, but she has scared many guests. She's often seen in the tower room of the chapel wearing her green dress. What's terrifying, however, though, is her face. If she looks at you, you'll notice that her eyes have gaping holes where they should be, and her nose is missing, resembling what a corpse would look like. As well as her sightings, her moans are also often heard throughout the castle in the early morning hours. Another one that's hard to pronounce. Borgvattnet in Sweden. This is a small village in Jomland County, northern Sweden. It's renowned for having one of the most haunted houses in Sweden. Do not come for me for saying all that wrong, please. The Old Vicarage, built in 1876. The first ghost ever documented at the vicarage came in 1927, when the chaplain Nils Edlund resided. He reported many strange happenings, including one particular encounter with something paranormal. He was on his way up to the attic to gather his laundry when he witnessed his laundry being torn down from the line by an unseen force. Rudolph Tangden, a priest who lived at the vicarage during the 1930s, saw an older woman dressed in gray appear in a room. He followed her as she walked away, but she vanished in front of his eyes. In the 1940s, Tangden's successor Otto Lindgren and his wife said they have had several paranormal experiences, including unexplained sounds and moving objects. On one occasion, a woman staying in the guest room was awoken in the middle of the night to see 3 older women staring at her. She quickly turned on the light, and they were still there. However, now they appeared blurry. In 1945, the chaplain Eric Lindgren moved into the vicarage, and he began a journal recounting many of his own experiences in the house. He reported being thrown out of his chair regularly by an unseen force. Maybe you need a new chair, dude. The current building is serving as a restaurant/cafe, as well as a guest house, and if you dare to stay the night, you actually get an overnight stay certificate to prove it. Okay, number 11 is Bavenhausen Barracks in Hesse, Germany. Now a museum. The ghost of World War II German soldiers have been seen in uniform. Lights are known to turn on and off by themselves, and voices are heard in the basement. German commands are often heard being shouted in the middle of the night, and disembodied footsteps are a common experience. Soldiers who have visited this museum and picked up a telephone have reported hearing a woman talking backwards, and it's not clear whether it is in German or English. In the town of Bavenhausen, a witch was allegedly burned at the stake sometime in the 19th century, and her ghost is said to have seduced and killed several German soldiers. Number 12 is Lawang Sewu in Semarang, Indonesia. Lawang Sewu, meaning 1,000 doors, was built in 1917 by the Dutch East Indian Railway Company. spirits are known to wander its corridors and grounds, and the basement in the B building is believed to be haunted by, something I don't know how to say, and I did not look up. Let's, by a Kuntilanak. I'm gonna look it up here. It is, a mythological creature in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. It usually takes the form of a pregnant woman who is unable to give birth to a child. Alternatively, it is often described as a vampire, a vengeful female spirit, or a white lady. Yep, nope, no, thank you. Alright. Number 13 is Poveglia Island. Oop, let me click so I can actually scroll here. In Venice, Italy. In the Venice Lagoon between Venice and Lido sits a tiny island called Poveglia. I suck at names, y'all. Why do I do this to myself? Somebody tell me. Why? Oh, for your enjoyment. Is it funny? Sorry. Inhabited since 421, when mainlanders fled to seek refuge from the invaders. The population began to dwindle centuries later, and by the 14th century the island was abandoned entirely. As with many small islands in Europe during the bubonic plague outbreak in the 14th century, the island became a quarantine colony. Many Venetians were sent here to die, their dead, infected bodies being burned on giant pyres. This was also the case in 1630 when the Black Death swept through Venice. The site was used as a mental asylum during the 1800s. However, many sources state that this was simply not the case. Stories persist of the ill treatment and experimental procedures carried out in this building. In 1930, a doctor was believed to have committed suicide, jumping to his death from the bell tower. From the mid-20th century until 1975, when it was closed, this hospital was used as a senior center. Today, the whole island is abandoned, and it is believed that many locals dare not step foot on the island for fear of being cursed. Fishermen also refuse to fish in the area for fear of dragging up human remains. Can you? The ghosts of the patients and the victims of the disease are said to haunt this island and the buildings. Voices and screams are often heard, with EVPs often captured. Dark, fleeting shadows are often witnessed, and possessions have been reported. Ghost Adventures' very own Zach Baggins was possessed during the cruise visit a few years ago, when he suddenly became overrun by rage. As soon as people step foot on this island, they begin to feel an oppressive, evil feeling, often departing in absolute terror. Number 14 is Island of the Dolls in Mexico. Located on Lake Texluio, right outside of Mexico City, the Island of the Dolls is undoubtedly one of the strangest haunted locations on this list. In the 1950s, Julianne Santamperera moved to the island, despite being married and having a young family. Julianne was unaware of the area's dark history when he moved there to become a hermit. Legend says 3 young girls were playing near the water in the 1920s when one of the girls fell and drowned in the murky waters. Locals believe the young girl's spirit had been unable to leave the island ever since her death. It soon grew quite a reputation as a haunted place, and the locals wouldn't go near it at night for fear of what they may see. Julian claimed that a little girl began speaking to him as soon as he moved onto the island. She told him how she had died and she was still trapped there, and he began to get dolls for this little girl, often selling off fruit and vegetables he had grown on the island to purchase old dolls. visitors and staff of this new tourist destination have experienced many things over the years. Oops, sorry, went too far. The most common is the feeling of being touched or grabbed, as well as sightings of apparitions. Spirits that have been witnessed include an older man wearing an apron, a headless drummer boy, and a piper who mysteriously lost his life after getting lost in the tunnels below the castle. Other experiences include shadowy figures, strange lights, sudden drops in temperature, unexplained mists, strange sounds, the feeling of being watched, and a sudden intense feeling of dread, sadness, or despair. Akershus Fortress, Oslo, Norway, is number 16. Built around 1300, Akershus Fortress, or Castle, is a medieval castle that served as a defensive stronghold for the city of Oslo. It has served as a prison. Served as a prison during the late 18th to 19th centuries, with many prisoners dying during their imprisonment. Nazis also occupied the castle during World War II, carrying out many executions on this site. Akershus Castle is the most haunted place in Norway, with many ghosts to speak of. With its vast history, the most popular of all is the demon dog named Mackenzie, which guards the gates to the castle. Legend says that anyone approached by Mackenzie is sentenced to a horrible death sometime within the following 3 months. The ghost of a woman named Mandel Geisten is often seen within the castle, walking back toward her chamber. She appears wearing a long robe from the darkness, and she has no facial features. Number 17, Old Changi Hospital in Singapore. It was built in 1935 as part of the old military base. During the occupation of the Japanese, the compound was used by the notorious Kempeitai, the Japanese secret police, as a prison and torture camp. After World War II, the building was seen again as a hospital and remained so until 1997, when the General Hospital replaced it, and it stands derelict and decaying ever since. This building is now haunted by its past, with Japanese soldiers, people that were executed, and the patients that died there. Apparitions of an older man have been seen walking down the corridors, and a woman has been seen walking through the rooms. The spirits of the children are known to haunt the old children's ward, and the ghosts of bloody Japanese soldiers have also been seen. Loud bangs and unexplained screams are also common occurrences. Number 18, St. Augustine Lighthouse in Florida. The lighthouse was built in 1974, and it is an active lighthouse and museum in St. Augustine, Florida. The lighthouse and its surrounding buildings are supposedly haunted. The apparitions of 2 girls have been reported on several occasions by both visitors and staff. The girls are believed to be the daughters of Hezekiah Pitti, who was in charge of the construction of the lighthouse in the 1870s. His 2 daughters died during its construction in a tragic accident on site, and both of them have been seen on the tower catwalk. The apparition of a woman has also been witnessed standing on the stairway of the lighthouse or walking the lighthouse grounds. Her voice has been heard on several occasions, often crying out for help. There have also been various reports of disembodied conversations, shadows, and the sound of footsteps coming up the lighthouse steps. The ghost of a man has also been seen in the lighthouse basement, believed to be that of Civil War hero and former lighthouse keeper William A. Harn. Due to the overwhelming number of reports coming from the location, the TAPS crew investigated and found several pieces of evidence, including a video of what appears to be a woman looking over the railing on the lighthouse staircase. They also captured shadow figures and the EVP of a woman crying out for help. Number 19, the Queen Mary Hotel in Long Beach, California. procedures such as electroshock therapy and lobotomies were carried out in this building, often with deadly consequences. Given that such horrific acts were conducted here, it's little wonder that the spirits of those lost souls are condemned to haunt this eerie complex to this day. Harrowing calls for help can be heard coming from empty cells, and the terrifying apparitions of past patients are often seen throughout. People visiting the location have been forced to leave due to overwhelming sensation of sadness and extreme nausea. Anyway, once again, I'm so sorry my stomach grumbled through this whole video. I know y'all keep telling me to stop apologizing for stuff, but